Today on New England Living, home is where the heart is. We'll check out a brand new luxury residence redefining city living and a contemporary suburban home connecting modern design with the great outdoors. Plus, we'll look at the latest interior design trends. And we're back in the test kitchen cooking with Caulilini. It all starts right now on New England Living. New England is full of adventure. I can't believe you guys are letting me do this.
Up and away.
Look at that. Oh, you just did your first takeoff.
Join me as we discover the people and places that make us so unique.
This is it. You can't find it anywhere else in North America.
I mean, does it get any better than this? Love the place you call home with New England Living. Thanks for joining us today on New England Living. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. City Living is back. We're heading to Boston's South End to check out a collection of new construction homes representing the latest in urban living. Ricardo, as far as new construction goes, it doesn't get any newer than this. There's currently construction underway.
Yes, you can hear the noise, right?
Yeah, you can hear the noise. Tell me about this project.
So it is a wonderful project. It's in the South End. The name of the project is Residences at 566, which is 566 Columbus. It's a great collection of homes. It's 66 homes total, from studios to 3 bedrooms plus studies. It blends perfectly with the existing architecture, historical architecture of the South End. The design done by Wolf & Sheep Design, I think, is magnificent because I think it represents a lot of the macro trends that we are seeing in new construction right now. The great thing about new construction is that everybody wants new, and so there's a high demand for it. To give you an example, this building is not done yet, and out of the 66 units, we only have 7 units left. The other benefit, I think, to new construction is that when you're buying into that, you're buying into, again, not just all these new systems, but also you're buying into all these new trends that maybe are lifestyle trends, that are kind of like living trends in general. And I think that that's why it's so desirable, and I think that's why people are always kind of like looking for it.
In new construction, what are some trends that you're seeing now that maybe you didn't see 10 years ago?
So I think that particularly after the past 3 years, there are 3 general macro trends that we are seeing reflected in new construction. We are seeing it not only in this building, but we are seeing on all the buildings that we have right now in our pipeline. One of them is this idea of sanctuary. You know, this idea that people want to feel like home is this kind of like safe space. And so that is reflected not only in aesthetics, but it's also reflected on technology. So things like air purification systems, touchless elevators, things of that nature are popping up in all of this new construction, including this building. So that's one, that idea of sanctuary. The second one is this idea of social wellness, not just amenity for the sake of having spaces for people to congregate, but spaces where people are congregating for health and wellness purposes. And I would say that the last big trend that we are seeing is casual luxury. So people are really going towards this idea of luxury, but more in an organic, more in a casual kind of like manner. Those, I would say, are the 3 most important macro trends that we are seeing at this point.
Describe some of the features of each unit here.
These units are really kind of like in line with this trend of casual luxury. You see very clearly, which I think are the best looking bathrooms in town right now, in the primary bathroom. You see this juxtaposition of a classic white bathroom, which everybody loves. Who doesn't love a white bath? But you have this very interesting choice in terms of the tile, and more importantly, the way in which the tile has been applied to the space. And also the choice of a darker kind of like wood grain for the vanity, introducing this nice, very kind of like rich and saturated walnut tone to the vanity. I think adds a lot of that warmth that we are all looking for. Again, this notion that is something familiar, but at the same time is something that feels new, warm, and inviting. And so I really love them. In the kitchens, we kind of like see the same thought process where you have a 2-tone kitchen. We're picking up again on a very kind of classic element, which is a white kitchen. So it's a white cabinet that is, again, very familiar, very comforting, juxtaposed with that warm, very saturated walnut base cabinets and island, and as well as the bookends of the kitchen. Also, the integration of the appliances, it creates this notion that this kitchen almost looks like furniture within the space.
Ricardo, it seems like the past couple years, everyone was leaving the city. Now we're back in full force.
Oh, tell me about it. We are back. The city is popping. Activity is really great. The cities are back, businesses are back, the city is active, it feels good, it feels joyful, it feels wonderful. And we're very lucky to be in a city like Boston that has that beautiful merge between history and contemporary living. And I think that that's why we're so desirable, not only in kind of like a local market, but in more of a national and international market.
Coming up after the break, we're heading to the burbs for a look at a modern home designed to help bring the outdoors in. When New England Living returns after this. Welcome back to New England Living. I'm Rachel Holt. Up next, we're heading to Newton for a first-hand look at suburban living with an outdoor feel. This is a beautiful home. Tell us about this project and how it started.
The client who bought this property came to us and said, we'd like to offer you an opportunity to do something very open and interesting and not have constraints. And so we used that latitude to come up with an interesting concept. And what we came up with is a kind of a contemporary play on a regional vernacular. In this case, it's a little village of houses, so little wings kind of all put together with a glass connector in between the two. And the beauty of that was that each of these pieces has their own distinct program. So we have 3 wings in the form of an H, and then one's kind of a bedroom and garage wing, one's a living room wing, and one's a kitchen wing. And what's neat is that the bedroom wing is 2 stories, but the other 2 are single stories, so you get really great shaped spaces, very dynamic, like the one we're standing in right now. And that adds a lot of character to the house.
A big thing you do in all of your work is that focus on the indoors-outdoors relationship. How do we see that at play in this house?
So where we're standing, we're in the living room, and this living room is defined by a series of wonderful windows and sliding doors that open up to the backyard. Those doors are contrasted by a wall across from us, which faces out to the street side. And so one side represents openness on the private side of the house, and one is on the public side of the house. And by having these 2 relationships of one wall being completely glass and one being a wall, it makes the wall of glass that much more interesting. And so in this case, we work with Marvin to create special custom-sized sliding doors that run from floor to ceiling and all the way across the breadth of the room. And it's almost impossible to walk into this space and not be drawn outside.
What separates the front of the house from the back of the house, because they are very different?
So the creation of a shaped house, those different pieces that come together to form an H, what that allowed us to do is create an auto court in the front of the house, and it pulls the primary living part back from the house and gives it some buffer, and that's the private side. And there you have a wall with a bunch of ribbon windows up above that are smaller, versus the other side of the house, which is pretty much flat against the back of the yard and completely glass. And so we have very high contrast, both the spatial relationship's different and also the amount of light and views that come through it are different.
This emphasis on the large doors, the large windows, bringing all this light in and this openness, why is that such a highlight now?
Well, if you think that we spend probably 90 to 95% of our time indoors, it's pretty important that if you're going to be indoors, that you should have some strong connection to the outdoors. And if you look at, say, California over the last 20 years, they've got a much more temperate climate. A lot of their houses are really open, but a trend that we've seen moving to the Northeast is people wanting to embrace that. And part of that's the technology that allows them to do that. And part of it is a desire to have their houses be more open. We also tend to have a little bit more of a Scandinavian vibe to our designs. We like warm materials, but a kind of a nice simplicity to the house so that houses feel peaceful and balanced, and we work off of light and shadows and materials all together.
The kitchen area, that's a dream over there. I mean, you can picture just having a cup of coffee in the morning, looking out to the great outdoors. Walk me through that space in particular.
So the kitchen has 2 different pieces. One is the kitchen proper, which relates directly to this space. And then one is the breakfast nook, which is off the back. And that's completely all glass. And the idea is when you're in the breakfast area, you're literally outdoors. By surrounding yourself with glass on 3 sides, it really kind of accentuates that relationship of indoors to outdoors. As you move back into the kitchen, it's a little bit more utilitarian, but not any less interesting.
When it comes to picking the products that go in the house to help you achieve the goal you set out on, what are you looking for in your partners?
So in our world, opening up the back of a house and creating as much light as possible is a really big deal. And not everybody can do that. And so we have to look for ways to accomplish that. And working with the right window manufacturer and door manufacturer is really key for us. And in the case of this house, we have these really wide array of doors and they're really, really tall. We had to go outside of the standard offerings that most people would have. So we partnered up with Marvin, who's been tremendous. We've used them for a long time, and they were able to help us achieve our vision. When you're designing a home, if every single space has the same attitude, you're not going to have a unique experience in one spot versus a different one. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to create unique experiences. It's never lost on me that somebody's living here for maybe many years, and the value of this house is in their daily lives with their families. What's it like to come down and walk into these spaces and experience them? And so if each one has its own personality, that's pretty cool.
Coming up next, we're heading to our test kitchen for a lesson in cooking up one of the trendiest new veggies on the market. When New England Living returns after this. Welcome back to New England Living. Up next, we're back in the test kitchen with a simple recipe for a sophisticated dish. Tommy Pontilillo is a corporate chef of the Koji Restaurant Group, where he oversees the food experience at some of Boston's hottest restaurants. With an appreciation for local seasonal ingredients, Chef Tommy is known for integrating bold new flavors from around the world to create an over-the-top experience for his guests. We're here at the Clark Sub-Zero and Wolf showroom, and I am joined by Chef Tommy Pontilillo of Coquette. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you're making us Caulilini, and first and foremost, this is kind of a newer vegetable, so can you tell us what Caulilini is?
Caulilini is actually a young cauliflower. It's characterized with a full cauliflower flavor with a nice, light, tender stem.
How are you preparing it for us today?
I am actually going to roast it, serve it with Vaudevilles spices, tahini creme, crispy chickpeas, and currants.
This sounds really good. Let's get into it.
I already have some Caulilini right here. It's already been blanched. It is ready to go. We're going to add some olive oil and a good amount of salt.
Why do you like using Caulilini on your menu?
We always want to be on the forefront with new ideas, things that people haven't seen before. I think it's really flavorful. I think it's a great menu addition. And it's nice to cook with a seasonal vegetable. It's one of my favorite things as a chef.
Broccolini is really having a moment. Cauliflower has been having a moment for a really long time, it seems like. How is this a little different?
Because it's younger, this is nice and delicate. You can eat the whole thing, floret down to the stem. Very nice and light. At
Koji Management Group, you have a number of different concepts throughout Boston, Coquette being one of them, Lolita, Marielle, the list goes on. You're really transforming the Boston dining scene.
We want to give an over-the-top experience, something that you're going to remember and crave, and a reason to want to come to our restaurants day in and day out.
At Coquette, one of your goals is demystifying French cuisine, so how are you going about that?
We really wanted to transition our idea of French food, and what we've really tried to do is introduce all the influences that have since come into Paris and the surrounding areas. We use a lot of flavors from Northern Africa, a little Indian, Tunisian. One of our dishes is focused on Nice, which is very close to Italy, so we have all these influences that have since been brought into France that I really want to showcase, that it's not the same traditional food that you might have grown up with.
Now, what's the goal here to make sure you're cooking this just right?
We want to get some nice char to get it a little crispy, to really bring out the nuttiness that the Caulilini really has to offer. All right, so now these are ready to come off the grill. We are just going to layer this into the bowl. Notice we have some real nice char in there. That's really going to bring out some real fun flavor.
As far as your plating tips, how do we make these vegetables look as delicious as possible?
I like to stay simple. One of my keynotes is that I want the last bite to be as good as the first bite. We've always believed in shareable food, something that you want to share with a loved one. So to make sure that you have equal amounts of sauce on your last bite is very important to me as the first bite that you take.
And talking about the sauce, what's going to go on this?
To start with, I have a Vaudevilles vinaigrette. It is a French curry, very lemony and acidic with lots of garlic and shallots. I'm going to drizzle this over the top.
The more sauce, the better, right?
More sauce, the better, absolutely. Next, we're gonna drizzle tahini creme fraiche. And again, just really coat all over. You should see a little bit of sauce at the bottom. That's gonna really make sure that it's great. We're gonna sprinkle a little bit of Aleppo over the top. I have some crispy chickpeas. This is gonna add a really nice crunch. Next, we have some currants. It's gonna add a little bit of sweetness. And I just like to add some whole leaves of cilantro at the end to keep it nice and light and vibrant.
That is a beautiful and colorful looking dish. Thank you very much. So let's grab my fork. This is actually my first bite ever of Caulilini, and I think I'm doing it right.
I think you got the right one. This is a light dish, something that's full of flavor, but it's not super heavy, which is something that you might find traditional with French food. So
this is incredibly flavorful.
This take.
If all of my vegetables can taste like this, I'd be a lot healthier. And we're pairing this with a Pinot Gris from Etude. It's a small handcrafted wine with a focus on sustainable farming. How does this pair with the Caulilini?
I really like this because this is nice and light, vibrant, starts very lemony, and kind of finishes with a nice honey mouthfeel.
Sounds amazing, and who knew vegetables could be so fun, right? Cheers.
Cheers.
Coming up after the break, we'll check out a newly renovated home with a modern aesthetic when New England Living returns after this. Welcome back to the show. Up next, we're heading to Douglas, Mass. for a look at some of the latest design trends. We're here in Douglas with Stephanie, our homeowner, and Lauren, our designer. You two worked very closely on this project. So when it came to your home, what were you looking for?
We were looking for a retreat, really, a relaxing space, something that was different than the previous home that we owned. Modern farmhouse, relaxing. We worked from home, so cozy and comfy was important to us.
All of the details here are just so incredible. What was the process like of picking out the different appliances and the fixtures?
Lauren was able to help me pick out the perfect cabinets, and she was really great with being able to guide us in how we use the kitchen, because it's a very daunting task to try to figure out, well, how am I going to use this new kitchen? What type of drawers do I need in this new space?
A brand new build, obviously very daunting. How were you able to help guide them and then create this project where their vision was achieved?
I always start with a lot of questions, asking what the customer's looking for. Stephanie knew a lot of what she wanted, but my job is to help figure out where that best goes, how to make the flow work, and just getting to the bottom of the must-haves, because we all have giant wish lists and not everything's possible. So what are those pieces that are going to make the difference in the space?
Given that Stephanie loves to cook, what are some of those details that you put into the kitchen that are meant to make her life so much easier when it comes to cooking?
We started with the galley workstation. They've really revolutionized sinks. These sinks offer the option to have everything all in one. There's tons of accessories that you can use. You can dry in it, you can prep in it, great sprays. It perfectly mixed that idea of a gourmet kitchen with a usable kitchen. In the butler's pantry, we put in an ice maker and a beverage fridge. We added a separate sink, as well as a really cool Cooler Artifacts faucet, which is a great balance to the galley faucet, which is very modern. So again, that mix that Stephanie loves of modern and farmhouse together. That separated out all that workspace and allowed the kitchen to focus on a 60-inch range where you can grill and bake and have all sorts of different things going on at once. The Sub-Zero adds so much storage, so much amazing space compared to your average refrigerator in a home.
How is this kitchen reflective of the overall design trends that you're seeing now?
This kitchen really shows a lot of the important features people are looking for. Accessories like pull-out trash, organizers in the cabinets, so everything has its place, everything is hidden and stays clean, keeping things off the countertops. A great big island for your whole family to sit around. I think those are things that every customer really wants in a kitchen now. The kitchen design is very modern and clean and has great contrast. The sharp white cabinets balanced with the dark black countertop, and then the soft element of adding the warm wood island and the warm wood hood really creates this mix of modern and warm that we see throughout the house and carried through to all the bathrooms. There's a strong color story that keeps the whole house feeling very cohesive.
When it comes to bathrooms, what are some things that people are asking for now that maybe were considered a luxury thing beforehand?
The primary bath has really become a spa environment. Everyone wants a soaking tub so you can relax, a really large vanity so you can have that space of your own and your husband has his own space, that master shower with dual shower heads, again, having your own space but having it feel large and comfortable and just really feel like get that experience of going to the spa without having to leave your house.
Working with Lauren, we designed that space to be a total retreat. Having that space to go to after the workday's done is my favorite space.
Going off the fixtures that you chose for the bathrooms here, how are we seeing that at play when it comes to bigger design trends?
In this house, we used a lot of matte black and chrome. Chrome has really had a resurgence in home design. It's easy to clean and care for. It adds a lot of sparkle to a bathroom. It looks great on a very modern clean line faucet. And then the matte black also speaks to the modern farmhouse design. It creates a nice contrast with the chrome in other spaces. And that's really a trend we're seeing across the board in design. Matte black has become wildly popular and it really adds a nice new element to spaces.
And what are you noticing in terms of what people are asking for in recent years?
COVID really has taught people that they want defined spaces. Families want to have their private spaces where they can close the door and be separate, whether it's working, playing, watching a movie. It really makes a difference when you can do that on your own terms and not interrupt everyone in the house, not be cooking dinner and having to listen to the kids' movies. There's a big change, I think, in how people look at their houses and how they use the space.
All right, we have the bar, we have the beautiful kitchen. We already know that you're a great chef. So my question is, when are we coming back over for the party?
Anytime.
Anytime? Okay, we have it. We have it on camera. We'll be there. Thanks for joining us today on New England Living. For more on the show or anything you've seen here today, visit us at newenglandliving.tv and follow us on social media. I'm Rachel Holt. See you next time on New England Living.